No greater person to have this conversation with than Eagles' all-time rushing leader, LeSean "Shady" McCoy. Now, Shady, here's the real question that most everybody needs to realize. Saquon Barkley said, he might sit out the season if need be. For context, we've seen this before. Pittsburgh Steelers, Le'Veon Bell, 2018. The Steelers offered him a contract, but there was only $20 million. I say only because if you knew what Le'Veon was doing at the time, he deserved a lot of money. Only $20 million of that deal was guaranteed. Le'Veon Bell said, you know what, I'm going to sit out the entirety of the season. Ended up getting a big-time deal from the New York Jets 1 year later. The rest of his career, I don't have time to explain. You all can look that up. Would Saquon Barkley be making a mistake to sit out the season based upon the Giants not needing what he wants?
Absolutely. I mean, sitting out a whole season, you know how tough that is? Even when Le'Veon Bell was talking about it and contemplating making that decision, I said, bro, don't do it. I spoke to him. I said, don't do it. Listen, I think it was a guaranteed issue with them. And I was like, well, one thing about it is if you sit out, you will never make that money back again. No matter how good you do, no matter how much money you make, you will never make that money you missed out on. In this game, we play a physical game. We the running backs. We get hit every play, with the ball, without the ball. So I would tell Saquon Barkley, listen, the franchise tag is about $10 million, a little bit more than $10 million.
More than 10.
I would sign it just for guarantee, for insurance, sign that thing, right? And see if you could work a deal out, right? Now, I think the biggest thing is the first 2 to 3 years in the contract, no matter what it is. The Giants have no real identity without Saquon Barkley.
True.
So he does have that leverage. But in this game, man, it's like, what have you done lately? And he's been up and down. He's had a good year last year. We'll see what he does this year. Maybe this year might be the year where, okay, sign that tag, I'll ball out, then I get my money.
Shady, let me come back to you on this question, though, because here's what the conversation not enough people I've seen nationally are having. With Le'Veon Bell, Pittsburgh Steelers, Joy, you know this well. Antonio Brown was present. Ben Roethlisberger, Hall of Famer, was present. Their offensive line was beastly. Their defense, forever beastly, particularly at the time, 2017. The Giants is a completely different story, y'all. Their quarterback is a quarterback in Daniel Jones, who we praised a phenomenal season when he had 15 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 7 rushing touchdowns, 22 total, and I believe 5 or 6 picks. That is what we lauded as one of the most great seasons we've seen from him. Offensive line, average at best. Receiving core, average at best. Defense, average at best. Unlike Le'Veon, Saquon is the diamond on this team.
I totally agree.
Whereas Le'Veon was a great guy, but a guy nonetheless. Ultimately, James Conner ended up having 1,600 yards a year. Le'Veon sat out. 1,600 total yards, 972 rushing, I believe, 500, 600 receiving. So does Saquon actually have the leverage to threaten to sit out and the Giants might kowtow?
I mean, I would say yes, because they do want to compete, and they're at the stage, I think the Giants, they're getting better and better and better. Like, the Giants are in the playoffs nowadays. That matters. A new coaching staff, right? Brian Daboll, I played with him. He's a hell of a coach. He's super smart, and he would need a guy like Saquon Barkley. But you know what scares me, though, being honest with you? These guys got rid of the best player I've ever seen with the Giants as far talent-wise, right? Odell Beckham. They really traded him to the Browns, right? He was like their identity. Like, he was the most recognizable player in the league and for the Giants. So when they did that, I'm like, wow, nobody's safe. I just feel like with Saquon Barkley, man, it's a hard situation because you want him to get his money, but it's also you want to give him the right amount of money. I just think that you don't want to lose out and don't get paid for this year and sit out a whole year. That's a whole year with no income, right? So I don't know. I don't know how that plays out. And then you come back, you might be rusty. Le'Veon Bell was still young when he did that. When he came out with the Jets,
he wasn't the same.
He looked way different, wasn't the same. So that's a tough situation.
He didn't look the same.
But hey, real quick, Giants, pay this man, because if y'all don't, them guys on the street, the Philadelphia Eagles, they will. Howie, always looking to get better.
Slick, where do you stand? Will Saquon be making a mistake sitting out?
Yes. I would suggest, and I hear you, it is drastically different in terms of what he means to the Giants versus what Le'Veon Bell was for the Steelers. But the circumstances and the leverage point is still the same for a running back. They're actually the exact same age. He was 25. Le'Veon was 25 coming off of a really good season.
Big year, yeah.
Same thing, but it's the running back position, unfortunately. I can't think of a situation where a running back has held out or even spent any time. Like, it feels a little bit like a false. You have to say it. You hope it gets you a little bit leverage. But ultimately, they will move on without him, regardless. So sitting out is not a good idea. To Shady's point, you're just losing money that you can't get back. I would say if he's going to amplify this, though, do what Deebo Samuel did. Sit in. Be around. Don't be out of sight, out of mind. be in their sight and therefore on their mind, particularly because of the kind of guy that I've heard that Saquon Barkley is.
Good dude, yeah.
Being in the building, being a good guy. Like, let's he's not going to break the bank. They're not going to give him something dramatically different, but he may be able to find his way to a middle point where he gets more than what the franchise tag is, right? So he gains something out of it. And to do that, you have to remind them of the intangibles that you bring, which is like, let's get this settled, let's get him in, let's not have this interrupt our season because of the value that he has in being around here, rather than making this difficult. That's where I see his leverage is.
It's just a tricky situation because when I think of the Giants, I think of Saquon.
I do too.
Absolutely.
And we just spent a whole segment talking about the New York Jets, and we will be talking a lot about the New York Jets. And let's be honest, this is a business also. So you're going to play this game with your best player and the guy who's been the face of the organization, who's been the only really reason that you've been relevant over the past few years. I don't know that really matters to the people that are signing checks, but I don't see this team being good next year if Saquon's not there.
True.
And while I agree with you, I wouldn't leave that money either. That's kind of your leverage. Nobody takes Daniel Jones serious without Saquon. I mean, apparently they do, but I just don't see it. So from a marketing perspective, from a relevancy perspective, from a winning perspective, that's Saquon to me with the Giants. I understand we don't value the running back position. Depending on the year, the waves come and go. They're super valuable. They're not super valuable. You can't pay him. You got to pay him. I get we go through all of that, but I don't think he needs to break the bank. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is making a little over $16 million. If he got 14, he'd be the third highest, and the franchise tag is $10 million. So you want to try and get somewhere in between that. He does need to be paid. It's a very unique situation because sometimes when running backs are negotiating, it's like, well, you kind of got this over here, or maybe we can supplement with this, or that's not really how the offense works. And we have, these other guys that people are buying jerseys of. None of that is the case with the New York Giants. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but I think he does have to try and flex whatever leverage he does have at the moment.
Shady, I can see you being in a front office if you wanted to be one day, just because of your knowledge.
Oh, I've been thinking about it.
So it makes sense. So that's great. Let me ask you this question now based on that. Saquon Barkley, first year, beast, 2,000 yards. Been in the league for 5 years, America. First year, 2,000 yards. Second year, 1,000 rushing yards. I believe he had 400 receiving yards, 1,400. Third year, he was hurt. Fourth year, coming back from that ACL injury, was not great either, 580 rushing yards or so. Last year, another dominant season. I believe it was 1,300 rushing yards, 300 receiving. Would you, as a businessman, not as a running back,
okay, I got you.
would you, as a businessman, give Saquon Barkley a long-term deal?
I am signing Saquon Barkley to a contract, for sure. He's one of the best running backs in this league. He's one of the best players in this league. I hear your concerns about him being available and being productive each year. It's hard to do, but I get it. I will find a medium there, right? Like, I don't know if I'm getting to the top of the market. I think it's $16 million a year. That's McCaffrey for the Niners. I probably won't go that high. I probably would be around that range of Derrick Henry, right? A little bit. When he got a deal, people thought that he would kill the market because of how good he's been. But the league is the league and the market is the market, and they try to devalue the running backs. That's what they try to do. Yeah. So when I'm comparing them, that's the argument they would use. Okay, I would use Derrick Henry, et cetera, his production, his money. So I would probably give him around like $13 million a year. I would give him that $12, $13 million a year because I'm not going to be happy. He's not going to be happy. Yeah. But we got to be understanding of the contract situation. That's how negotiations work.
They do say if two parties are both unhappy or happy, that's when a negotiation was done.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.